In this African folktale, a celebrated giver visits a forgotten village, leaving behind smiles and unanswered questions. When an ancient iroko and an unseen witness bring hidden truths to light, a secret long buried begins to surface. Once upon a time, there lived a woman whom the world called a blessing. Her name was Zara Adesua, and wherever her name traveled, hope seemed to follow. On glowing screens and crowded timelines, she appeared like an answered prayer, well-dressed, soft-spoken, holding oversized cheeks beneath open skies. Widows wept in her arms, children clung to her legs, and entire neighborhoods gathered as though salvation itself had learned to arrive with cameras. To millions who watched from afar, Zara was kindness given a face. But once upon a time is how stories begin when the truth wears two skins. Behind the lens, Zara's miracles were carefully built. Her team worked with the precision of seasoned traders. Scenes planned, words rehearsed, emotions guided. Cheeks meant only for the camera were collected again after filming. Promised sums were trimmed into modest envelopes. What remained returned quietly to accounts labeled operations. Zara did not call it cruelty. She called it strategy. Without spectacle, she believed generosity would die unnoticed. When the city grew tired of familiar backdrops, Zara announced a journey to a remote riverside town. "We are taking help where it is needed most," she declared to her followers. Sponsors applauded the idea of authenticity. Her crew packed their equipment already picturing dust, children, and a single ancient tree that would make the footage feel timeless. The town lay beyond the narrow road, where the river bent like an old thought and the market opened to the sky. At the heart of it stood an iroko tree, broad and patient, its roots rising from the earth like stories that refused to be buried. Elders said the tree had watched generations pass. Mothers whispered prayers beneath it. It was not worshipped, only respected, as one respects memory. Zara arrived with smiles prepared and cameras rolling. She greeted strangers as though they were old friends and stepped into the market square as if it were a stage built for her alone. Her crew erected a modest platform near the iroko, hung a banner, and adjusted their lights against the afternoon sun. People gathered, curious and cautious in equal measure. The filming unfolded as it always did. Zara spoke of struggle and deliverance, her voice rising and falling with practiced grace. A woman cried. A crowd murmured. The cheeky was raised high for the perfect shot. The moment was captured, polished, and stored for later praise. Yet not all eyes were moved. Near a vegetable stall stood Mama Neka, a widowed market woman whose face carried more years than complaint. She watched without kneeling, without tears, without the gratitude Zara expected to summon. When Zara approached her for a final close-up, Mama Neka thanked her plainly and stepped aside, refusing to perform suffering for the lens. The crew exchanged glances. Zara smiled tighter. As dusk crept in, the equipment was packed away with the same quiet efficiency that followed every miracle. The cheeky disappeared. Small envelopes changed hands. The market returned to itself. From the edge of the square, a young griot named Kola watched everything. He carried an old phone and a sharper memory. He noticed what was lifted for applause and what vanished without comment. While others watched Zara, he watched the iroko, whose leaves rustled though the air was still. That night, as the town settled and the river breathed softly, a whisper moved through the roots of the great tree, not loud enough to frighten, but clear enough to remember. A name passed through the leaves, then another. No one could say where the sound came from. But by morning, something unseen had begun to turn. Zara left the town believing the story was finished. The footage would perform well. The world would applaud again. But once upon a time is how stories begin when the ending has not yet agreed to be kind. Morning returned to the riverside town without ceremony. The market opened as it always had, with baskets unfolding and voices finding their places. Yet something lingered from the day before, thin as smoke and just as difficult to dismiss. People spoke in half sentences. They glanced at the iroko tree as if expecting it to answer them. Zara's team returned early, determined to gather supplementary footage. The phrase sounded harmless, but everyone knew it meant control, another chance to polish what felt unfinished. Zara herself arrived composed, dressed in softer colors this time, her smile gentler, her voice lowered to signal humility. She believed she could correct whatever had gone wrong simply by adjusting the performance. The cameras rolled again. She moved through the market, offering greetings, touching shoulders, listening with exaggerated care. Most people responded politely. Some even smiled. But when Zara reached Mama Neka's stall, the air tightened. The widowed woman arranged her vegetables with deliberate calm, as though the presence of cameras meant nothing at all. Zara spoke kindly. She invited Mama Neka to speak again, this time from the heart. She gestured to the microphone. Mama Neka looked at the lens, then at Zara. "My heart has already spoken," she said. It said thank you yesterday. There were no tears, no trembling voice, no kneeling. The cameraman hesitated. Zara laughed softly, attempting to smooth the moment. But the laughter landed poorly. Mama Neka turned back to her stall and continued her work. The exchange ended without the footage Zara wanted, and the crew withdrew, unsettled. From across the square, Kola observed everything. Kola had grown up learning that stories lived not only in words but in what people avoided saying. He noticed how Zara's team whispered urgently after the exchange, how one of them collected an envelope from the table and slipped it into a bag when they thought no one was looking. He noticed how the same generator with the same faded red label appeared again, the very one he had seen months earlier in a viral video filmed in another town. That afternoon, Kola walked the market with his phone hidden in his palm. He filmed nothing obvious. Instead, he recorded moments between moments. The crew discussing amounts, the production manager correcting a beneficiary's line, the swift retrieval of cash after a staged prayer. He did not accuse. He simply observed. As the sun dipped, unease spread. A microphone failed for no clear reason. A light flickered though the power was steady. Someone swore they heard whispering beneath the iroko tree. Not words exactly, but the sound of memory being disturbed. By evening, even the children avoided playing near its roots. Zara felt it too, though she would not name it. She slept poorly, waking from a dream in which the crowd clapped without faces and the iroko stood alone, calling her by a name she had not used since childhood. The following day, the market buzzed with quiet tension. Zara's team argued in low voices. Sponsors had begun sending messages asking about irregular footage. Zara insisted they continue filming. Retreat, she believed, would look like guilt. It was then that Kola found what he needed. While reviewing old clips on borrowed internet, he matched faces and details. The same banner folded the same way, the same generator label, the same promise repeated across towns. The pattern was clear. This was not one mistake but a system. Kola shared a single short video online. It was not dramatic. There was no music, no accusation. Only a question layered over quiet evidence. Where does the money go when the cameras leave? The response was immediate. By sunset, the video had traveled far beyond the riverside town. Comments multiplied. Some defended Zara fiercely. Others asked for answers. Sponsors paused their campaigns. Zara's phone filled with messages she did not reply to. That evening, Mama Neka approached Zara privately. There were no cameras, no raised voices. You help people, Mama Neka said, but you do not see them. Zara tried to explain. Mama Neka shook her head. Poverty does not mean we have no dignity, she said. And dignity does not cry on command. As night fell, villagers gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. The iroko tree stood at the center of it all, its leaves stirring though the air was still. The whispers returned, clearer now, insistent, as though calling the town to witness something unfinished. By morning, word had spread. There would be a confrontation. People would gather beneath the iroko tree. Truth would be spoken where memory lived. And for the first time since her rise began, Zara Adesua understood that there would be no editing this moment. Kola did not intend to start a storm. He only wanted to put pieces where people could see them. He cut his footage into a short clip. A generator tag, a folded banner reused in 3 towns, a hand slipping an envelope beneath a table. He layered a simple question across the images, where does the money go when the cameras leave? And posted it with no music, no flourish, just plain frames and plain facts. The internet did the rest. At first, the town watched the numbers climb like a tide. Neighbors gathered around a single phone and counted views the way they once counted yams, with wonder, then with worry. Messages arrived for Zara, some polite, some furious. A few supporters called for context, a few others canceled planned donations. Sponsors exchanged terse emails. The production manager, who had thought the campaign flawless, realized urgency in his own voice for the first time. Zara moved fast. Her first instinct was always the same: reframe, respond, reclaim the narrative. She posted a video that night. Measured, compassionate, professionally lit, in which she spoke of transparency, of audits, of administrative necessity. She apologized for any misunderstandings and promised to publish receipts. Her speech was flawless. Her eyes were practiced sincerity. It did not land. People had seen the small envelope slide under the table. They had seen the generator label that matched another town's miracle. Visual proof has a stubborn way of breaking tidy speeches. Zara's polished apology felt like a performance that had been caught mid-edit. Comments multiplied. Show the receipts. Show the full audit. Who benefits? The tone shifted from curiosity to demand. In the market, the mood shifted from whisper to momentum. Children who had clapped for Zara the day she arrived now watched with cautious faces. Traders who had paused stalls for a shot of glory returned to weighing tomatoes with hands that trembled slightly. The iroko tree, which had been patient for generations, seemed to sense the change. Its leaves stirred though the wind did not move. That evening, as the town leaned toward unrest, something happened no one could reduce to social media metrics. A chiki, a large ceremonial chiki, like the one Zara used for cameras, was found impaled in the iroko's bark. It was not placed. It had not been nailed. People swore it had simply appeared, folded against the rough wood as if the tree had coughed it up. The letters on the chiki were smudged with dried river clay. The amount was pristine. Beneath the printed sum, someone had written a name in an uneven, hurried hand. The name was not Zara's. It was a name of a man the town had once known, a promoter who had left a decade before with promises that never returned. The discovery spread faster than Cola's video. Cameras, both professional and the casual phones of market traders, focused on the iroko. People pressed their faces into grooves in the trunk as if expecting secret doors to open. Reverence mixed with outrage. The chiki became a public question without a single answer. That night the whispers changed. Where they had been gentle memory before, now they seemed like speech. Old men, who had been stoic their whole lives, repeated lists of promises once made to them by strangers. Women remembered names of contractors who had promised wells. Children retold details about a repaired roof that never lasted. Memory long, folded and tucked, rippled outward as if waking. Zara, who had slept on polished hotel sheets and woken to trending counts, felt exposed in a way analytics could not measure. She walked beneath the market lights with her phone vibrating in her hand, messages piling like small stones in her pocket. She tried to meet eyes and found none that gave the old, uncomplicated reverence. Even some of her crew avoided her. Cola kept watching. He recorded the chiki against the tree, the way the crowd circled it, and the way Zara stood at its edge as if listening. He did not step forward with accusation. He stood with the people, with his phone silent for a moment, and let the town speak. The next morning, Cola's second, longer post went up, clips stitched with villagers' memories, short interviews conducted without staging, close-ups of receipts and ruined envelopes. He did not narrate. The town's voice did. The clip traveled like a crack in dry earth. National pages picked it up. Small talk became headlines in distant cities. Questions that had been whispers in the market now echoed in comment sections and editorial columns. Under pressure, Zara tried a new tactic. She arranged a live-streamed town meeting beneath the iroko, promising transparency and a chance to answer questions. Her team framed it as reconciliation. She promised to speak without a teleprompter. The platform would show her as brave and honest. The town agreed to gather because towns gather for everything beneath the iroko. Weddings, disputes, decisions. Mama Neka agreed to attend but refused to sit on the stage. She would stand among the people. On the day of the meeting, the square filled. Phones lifted like palms. Men who had dogged their steps for years in search of work stood beside the old women who had always known how to read the weather. Children sat on laps. The air thrummed with expectation. Zara stepped onto the platform with the careful composure of a person who expected applause. She spoke of audits and receipts, of third-party verification and future projects. She spoke of mistakes and growing pains. She invited questions. Her voice was steady. Then, a clear, unamplified voice rose from the crowd. "Mama Nekas, you have spoken of help," she said, "and I have watched it happen. But when help is only a picture, it is not all help. It is a story the picture buys for itself." Her words were simple, and they landed with the force of truth. The crowd listened, each face folding like a page. Questions followed, sharp and precise. Where were the receipts for the generator? Why were envelopes retrieved? Who signed the contracts? Cola stood and played a clip of a producer telling a beneficiary what to say. A hush fell heavy enough to be heard. Zara's answers thinned. She reached for the one thing that had always saved her before: control. She tried to appeal to the crowd's gratitude, to the millions who had been helped by what she did. But as she spoke, the leaves of the iroko stirred, and for a moment, the crowd imagined they heard a whisper under the language of men, the tree naming a place, a promise, a name. It was not a shout to shame. It was not a curse. It sounded like a ledger being read aloud by an old wood voice teller. The sound threaded through the square, and for a beat everyone turned toward the trunk as if expecting it to speak a verdict. Zara looked at the iroko and for the first time did not see a backdrop. She saw a witness. The live stream surged. Comments flooded with opinions. Some called for forgiveness, others for accountability. The moment balanced on a knife edge between redemption and ruin. When the meeting ended, the square did not empty quickly. People remained beneath the iroko, as if the tree might continue to say names. Zara left with aides at her side, moving faster than she had planned. Kola recorded her silhouette against the fading light and kept his mouth shut. The town hummed with a new energy, not precisely anger, and not precisely relief, but something that would not be easily smoothed over by edits. The reckoning, the iroko seemed to insist, had only begun. By dawn, the town was awake without being summoned. No drums were beaten, no announcements made, yet people drifted toward the market square as if drawn by a shared dream. The iroko stood waiting, its roots bare and patient, the way they had been long before Zara Adesua learned how to hold a cheeky for applause. News of the confrontation had traveled far overnight. Radios murmured, phones glowed. Some said Zara would leave quietly before sunrise. Others said she would return to defend herself one last time. The town did not debate what should happen. It gathered to see what would happen. Zara arrived alone. She did not wear the colors she used for filming. No banner followed her. No camera crew hovered to frame her face. The absence was louder than any speech. She walked into the square slowly, stopping beneath the iroko's branches as though aware that she had entered a court older than law. Kola stood among the people, his phone lowered. Mama Neka stood beside him, her hands folded, her face unreadable. Elders formed a loose circle. Children climbed the roots of the tree and were gently pulled down. Silence settled, not forced but chosen. Zara spoke first. "I came to help," she said, and her voice cracked before she could correct it. She swallowed and continued. She spoke of beginnings, of good intentions that hardened into habits, of pressure to perform goodness until it became performance alone. She did not deny what the town already knew. Denial would have sounded foolish here. "I thought impact was numbers," she said quietly. "I thought stories fed people." Mama Neka answered without raising her voice. "Stories feed the soul," she said. "But only when they are true." The elders listened. The people listened. Even the iroko seemed to lean inward, its leaves barely stirring. One elder spoke of a time when strangers came with promises of roads and clinics, and left only signboards. Another spoke of a well dug for a photograph and abandoned before the dry season ended. Each story braided into the next, forming a rope of memory that stretched backward through years. Zara's shoulders sagged beneath its weight. Then the oldest elder stepped forward and placed a small wooden stool at the base of the iroko. He did not command Zara to kneel. He only said, "Sit, if you have come to stay. Stand, if you have come to leave." The choice was clear. If Zara stood, she could walk away with her followers divided but intact, her sponsors uncertain but salvageable. The internet would argue itself tired. Time would soften the edges. She could rebuild somewhere else with better caution. If she sat, she would submit to a reckoning no camera could control. Zara looked at the stool. She looked at the people. She looked at the iroko. Slowly she sat. A murmur passed through the crowd, not approval, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. The elder nodded and spoke again. "A true gift," he said, "is one you cannot take back, and one no one can applaud you for." Mama Neka stepped forward. She did not ask for money. She pointed to the riverbank, where floods had eaten the market's edge year after year. "There," she said. "If you wish to give, give there, quietly. Stay until it is done." Zara hesitated only once. Then she agreed. What followed was not filmed. Zara sold 2 properties that week. She canceled contracts that would have restored her image faster. She stayed in the town as workers arrived, as trenches were dug, as stones were laid. She listened more than she spoke. When her hands blistered, she did not hide them. When rain came, she worked through it. Kola recorded none of it. By the time the embankment was finished and the market stood secure from the river's anger, the town had grown used to Zara's presence, not as a savior, but as a woman learning how to be ordinary again. Some forgave her, some did not. Forgiveness, the iroko taught, was not owed. On the morning Zara prepared to leave, the town gathered once more beneath the tree. There were no speeches. Mama Neka pressed a bundle of vegetables into Zara's hands. The elder placed a hand on the iroko's trunk and whispered something no one else heard. As Zara walked away, the leaves stirred gently. That night, the whispers did not return. The iroko stood silent, its work finished for now. The town returned to itself, carrying a story that would be told not for applause, but for memory. And far away, on screens that would never know the whole truth, a woman once called a blessing began learning how to live without being one. What did you get to learn from this story? Kindly drop your thoughts and questions below. Do well to hit the subscribe button to see more emotional and exciting stories like this on Folktales by Siri.